Hey guys, it's October and Cybersecurity Awareness Month. What a great opportunity for us to take a look at the updated guidance that NIST has provided us around passwords and digital identities. The changes they've made are a really nice balance between user security and user convenience. I want to look today at how we're prioritizing password length over complexity and how we're rethinking forced password resets. Hey guys, Alex Ryals here from MicroAge. It's October and Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and as I was preparing, I ran across a really interesting statistic. Did you know that 94% of data breaches involve some type of compromised credentials? Credentials are the username and password we use to log into our systems. So with this scary fact in mind, this is exactly why in July of 2025, NIST updated their guidance around digital identities and password. They did this in a special publication called NIST 800-63. This is a set of documents that explain to us how we should think about password security as well as multi-factor authentication. And today we're going to look specifically at password guidance they've been updated because some of these things were a little surprising to me and I thought they might be surprising to you as well. Now, first of all, let's talk about what are the NIST 800 series of documents and special publications. These are guidelines and rules set out for U.S. federal agencies. If you're in the U.S. federal government, it's not really an option to follow the guidance in these documents. However, I've found for commercial industry, they're incredibly useful as well, and we should take heed. But before we jump in, I want to distinguish two unique words that are in these 800-63 documents, and that's the word you shall do something and you should do something. Obviously, shall statements are you don't have a choice. This is the way you're going to behave from now on if you're a U.S. federal agency. And the should statements are saying these are best practices we think you should consider strongly doing if your environment supports it and it makes sense for your agency. Now, obviously, as a commercial entity or state and local government, these are all should statements. We get to choose whether we want to implement these best practices. But if the US government says these shall be done for them, I think it's certainly worth us taking a hard look at whether we shall do it for us as well. So let's talk about 8 updates to the guidelines around password management specifically, because I think these are really interesting and sometimes surprising. Number 1 is a focus on strong and unique passwords. Did you know that MIT did a study recently that said that 8-character passwords can be cracked in as little as a few hours? Yikes. I know I do have some 8-character passwords and I'm going to need to think about changing those. But they also said that 15 plus, actually 12-character passwords can be cracked in about 200 years. Wow, the difference there is pretty staggering. And what's important to note is that the length of the password, they're saying, is really important to determining password security. Used to, we thought that as long as a password was complex, uppercase and lowercase characters, numbers, special characters, that made it very secure no matter how long it was, as long as it's at least 8 characters. But what we're finding is that the length is a better indicator of security than complexity. Not that complex passwords are bad, but length of passwords should take precedent. So what are the shall statements that we see in the NIST 800-63 documents? First of all, it says that passwords shall be a minimum of 15 characters if you're using single-factor authentication. In other words, if a username and password is the only thing required to log into your system, then the password needs to be 15 characters, because if it takes 200 years to crack a 12-character password, anything greater than 15 for sure will be good for quite a while. But it also says passwords shall be a minimum of 8 characters if you're also using MFA, multi-factor authentication. In other words, if I need a password to log into a system and I need a code that's from my authenticator app or maybe biometric with facial scan on my phone, then those two things mean I can get away with an 8-character password or more. The reason this works this way is if someone gets your 8-character password and compromises it in a few hours, it really doesn't help them a whole lot unless they have a plan to get your other factor of authentication. The other term used pretty frequently in the NIST 800 documents is passphrases. So a passphrase is a set of words strung together as a password, length being more important than complexity, that are easy to remember. So maybe my password is Airbnbs in Denver are my favorite. So what an odd little phrase, but it's something I can remember. It's more than 15 characters, and that passphrase can make a great type of a password. Number 2 in our list of 8 updated to guidance is that verifiers should accept all Unicode and ASCII characters, or printed ASCII characters. Now, notice that verifiers in that context is going to be people who write applications that need authentication, or administrators who configure your application with all the password related settings, like how long it can be, or whether it can be complex or not. So notice it doesn't say you have to use complex passwords. What it says is verifiers should accept all Unicode and printed ASCII characters, giving us the freedom to create complex passwords with any character in the ASCII or Unicode set that I might want to use. But that does bring us to number 3. Number 3 says verifiers shall not impose other composition rules. A composition rule is requiring complex passwords like uppercase and lowercase characters, numbers, special characters, or repeating characters. So notice verifiers shall not impose other composition rules other than allowing for the ASCII characters and the Unicode characters. The reason this is important is because we found that when we force people to use complex passwords, they're using weak pattern-based passwords. For instance, my password might be Airbnb, to use that example again, Airbnb1 or Airbnb1 with an exclamation, and next time I have to reset, it becomes Airbnb2 exclamation. It creates a pattern that's easy to be guessed by a computer cracking program. So for that reason, the new guidance says that requiring complex passwords or composition rules in our passwords is not really important as we used to think it was. Length of the password is the most important. Number 4 in our list of updated guidance is that verifiers shall not require users to change passwords periodically. Now this goes against everything I know as an administrator, because I was always taught force users to change passwords every 90 days or every 6 months. And the truth is this has created a bad set of behaviors on users. They have to change passwords so much they make the passwords memorable. They increment their password by 1 number as an example every single time. And that does not achieve the goal we want of better security. So it's better for people to really think about and create a complex long password as their main password, something that they can learn over time, and then only change it if their credential is compromised, which is another shall statement in the guidance. It says users shall force a change if there's evidence of a compromise. So without evidence of a compromise, leave those passwords alone as long as you have other rules in place to enforce length is effectively complex, and you probably should have multi-factor authentication turned on as well if you're not gonna have people reset passwords very frequently. All right, number 5 is verifiers shall not use password hints. Remember how they used to ask you in a little box, give me a hint, a couple of words on what your password is? It turns out this was a terrible idea, especially with AI today. AI can read your hint and it really narrows the focus on the types of passwords it's gonna try to crack in your account. So no more password hints is the updated guidance. Number 6 is that verifiers shall use password blocking list. There's another shall statement. So if you're a US federal agency, you got to do this. A password blocking list is a list of passwords known to have been compromised in the past. So if I force my user to reset a password, or they're setting up a new account with a new password, right away, immediately, I need to check that password against a known compromised list, maybe from Have I Been Pwned or other services. And if it's a known bad password, I need to go immediately tell the user, sorry, can't use that password, and let them pick something else. So Microsoft Entra offers this type of service right out of the box, and there's many other services available as well. Number 7 is verifiers shall use rate limiting mechanisms for failed password attempts. You ever tried to log into your account and you typoed the password and it didn't work? So you try it again and hopefully you remember the password. So we shouldn't allow people to attempt that more than about 5 or 6 times probably. And after that, your account should get logged out and locked out. So an administrator might have to unlock it for you, or maybe you have to wait a certain amount of time, maybe an hour before you can try again. This is to prevent a threat actor from just burning through hundreds or thousands of passwords in a very short period of time trying to crack your password. All right, number 8 says that verifiers shall allow the use of password managers and autofill functionality in an application. So notice it doesn't say that you have to use a password manager, but it does say that verifiers shall allow the use of password managers. In other words, sometimes we block a paste operation into a password field and force people to type it. They're saying that's not good. Allow someone to paste a password into a password field because they can store that password in a password manager. The very fact that it now says you shall allow the use of a password manager tells me password managers are good. We should definitely be using them, and I 100% agree. So there's so many great password managers on the market, such as Keeper or 1Password. I use Bitwarden, which is an open source password manager tool. The point is they can store passkeys now, and they're super valuable. They will automatically auto-populate your usernames and passwords into your fields on your web browser. They're a great tool, and they allow you to store multiple passwords that are all unique for every website you go to. I have over 900 passwords in my password manager as an example. So I hope this has been helpful to think about 8 updates to the guidelines in NIST Special Publication 800-63 around digital identities and passwords. Please put some of these things into practice and think about these updated guidelines. So I hope you stay safe out there, and I will see you next time on our next CyberBite video.